Hello, welcome again to the Oxfam Supply Centre warehouse in Bicester, UK. My name's Justin Hartree, Equipment Quality Officer. I'm going to talk a little today about measuring of chlorine in water samples, particularly residual chlorine. Residual chlorine, we know, is something we have to measure at any point in a water treatment process. We know when you're doing water trucking, for example, you want a residual that's much higher than at the point where you're delivering to the beneficiary. So we need to be able to measure the amount at different points in your system. There are a number of ways of doing it, but there's two ways I'm going to show you today. One is the simple method using the Pooltester kit, which is a colour comparator. Very cheap, the kit's about £12, very easy to use, you can do this very quickly, but the results are always a little ambiguous or subjective because they rely on the colour comparison made by the person who's using it, which may not always be the same as someone else. The other thing we'll look at is this digital photometer. This is a very simple kit. It'll measure chlorine, it'll measure pH and cyanuric acid. These things come in different versions. This one costs about £160. The huge advantage of this is that it's simple to use and it will give you a consistent and accurate result every time. There's no subjectivity between samples or between people using the kit compared to the Pooltester. So I shall show you now how they both work. So to use the Pooltester, you take your sample and add it to this vial on one side. You then take your DPD tablet and add it to the sample. You're careful not to touch the tablet with your fingers, so I break the foil with my fingernail, tear it back, and add my tablet. The Pooltester uses an effervescent tablet, so it will fizz as you crush it to dissolve it. We can see that it does contain chlorine because it's starting to discolour. Make sure the top is on firmly, give it a shake, and I'll hold it up to the light and see what the reading is. So there's my sample, and I'm looking at the scale on the right hand side. If I hold it like this, I can see that it's not as dark as these numbers here. This is the high range. Comes down to about 1 milligram a litre there. I see it's lighter than that, 0.5. It's maybe a bit darker than 0.5. So I'm looking on the fine range on the left here. And somewhere in here, it's darker than 0.3, darker than 4. Is it darker than 5? 6 maybe, so I'd say probably somewhere between 6 and 7, so 0.6 milligrams a litre, possibly 0.7.
They all look the same to me.
Yes, thanks Ed, yes they can look the same. It is difficult to tell, so we'll call that 0.6 and we'll see what that compares to the digital photometer. So with the photometer it's the same thing. The photometer passes a beam of light through the sample and will measure the difference between the plain sample and the one where you've added your reagent. So we'll switch it on and we'll add the sample water. Oh, sorry, it went out of shot. Just has to be slightly above the level of the body of the photometer in this one. To calibrate the machine, we use a plain sample, close the top so there's no light getting in, and zero the reading there. It'll take a couple of seconds, so the beam of light is being passed through the water and it will read, it's recalibrating so that it knows that that is 0. When it gives that display, you know it's calibrated. I'll set the mode here. Little CL will appear there for chlorine. And then we'll add the reagent. Break the foil with your fingernail. Try and add the tablet without touching it with your fingers. Best not to drop it onto the work surface. Should we start again? Or should we use that one? And I'll crush it with a stirrer. Now a photometer does use a different reagent to a pool test kit. The photometer reagents are ones that do not effervesce. You don't want it releasing loads of bubbles into the fluid because bubbles will stop the light beam going through and alter your reading. So this requires a good crush. I can see the pieces at the bottom. Fix the lid, give it a quick shake. Let that settle for a moment. And the simple test button. The device needs to be flat, obviously, because the light's going through that sample. And there's our reading. 0.5. So we were a little more vague with the pool test kit, but we knew it was more than 0.5, probably about 0.6 I'd said there. This is more accurate. Every time it's going to come out 0.5, whoever's using the equipment. So there you go, measuring residual chlorine. Two simple methods. The pool tester, very cheap, easy to use, quick, but ambiguous, slightly inconsistent results. Certainly between users you'll have some variety. And a photometer. Very simple to use again, more expensive I understand, but if you've got people who aren't accustomed to measuring chlorine and you want the results to be right, use one of these. Or if you're the team leader and you want to check the results of your team that are going out and measuring and make sure they're all accurate, this is the kind of thing you want to have handy in your backpack. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.